We've all watched trash anime or manga at some point, but for a manga to be so terrible, so outrageous that it almost angered every Twitter user at the time and made the author lose 1 million followers overnight is really one of a kind. Look, I'm not exaggerating when I say that this piece of work caused a national scale outrage in Japan, almost on the same level as the Tokyo Olympic logo plagiarism scandal at the time. And the most bizarre part of the whole incident is that this manga actually started really strong in the beginning and was extremely well loved by the public at one point. So what the heck happened? This manga tells a simple, heartwarming story of a crocodile spending his ordinary life. How could such an innocent, harmless story end up enraging so many netizens? Well, to sum it up, people felt betrayed, and one should never ever underestimate the power of betrayal in this nation, because contrary to public belief, the number one factor that leads to shows being hated on is actually not boring plot or poor production quality. It is betrayal, when fans feel deceived and emotionally manipulated. And this is something I accidentally discovered while checking the reviews for some of the most hated shows in Japan's history. So in this video, I want to talk about the two most infamous cases in anime history where a work led to a national scale outrage. The first case is the work I've just mentioned. The second case is an anime sequel, Kemono Friends Season 2, which broke the record for the lowest rated anime ever on nico.com. Then I want to analyze how betrayal played a big part in both of them and what the industry can learn from these mistakes. Case study number 1, a crocodile who lived for 100 days. On December 12, 2019, a mangaka published a simple 4x1 manga panel on his Twitter about a crocodile watching TV while laughing. The mangaka's name is Yuki Kikuchi. You've probably never heard of him, me neither, because he was kind of a nobody struggling mangaka whose tweets would normally only get about a dozen likes and several retweets. Yet, for some reason, this simple crocodile-themed manga panel received 7,000 likes and 1,000 retweets in a very short amount of time and soon became viral. At first glance, there really doesn't seem to be anything special about it. In fact, one could even argue that the quality of the drawing is pretty mediocre. I mean, when I first saw it, my immediate thought was, this is One Punch Man level of art. Now, apart from the subpar art skills, the plot does not really stand out either. In fact, there is no plot. It's just a crocodile watching TV. So how did this seemingly nothing burger of a manga panel become viral so quickly? The answer lies in this short sentence below the panel. It says, the crocodile will die in 99 days. Something about the time bomb nature of this sentence and its succinct presentation clicked with people, and it was quickly getting likes, retweets, and comments. Knowing that the happy-looking crocodile would die in 99 days, many netizens were already feeling bad for it, or shall I say feeling bad for him, as the story is anthropomorphic and the crocodile is referred to as kun, aka a male pronoun. So people were already feeling sorry for the crocodile. This comment says, poor thing. And this comment says, no, I don't want to see him die. I want to keep seeing his smile. Other netizens praised the mangaka's concept, thinking that it's a genius idea that not only hooks people's interest, but also makes people want to follow up to check what will happen to the crocodile after 99 days. The sudden success and popularity of this piece of work surprised Kikuchi, so he took his time to thank everyone who interacted with the tweet and commented that he would continue to draw until 100 days from now on, which he did in a meticulous manner. For the next 100 days, he would each day publish a 4x1 manga panel on his Twitter, continuing the story with the crocodile. On day 2, the crocodile sees a TV commercial which piques his interest, so he calls to order the product. The store tells him that the product will not be available until 1 year later, and the crocodile seems fine with that. On the surface, this plot seems rather bland and boring, but considering the context that the crocodile not only has 98 days to live, it immediately takes on a deeper meaning, and I know this sounds cringy, makes readers reflect on life. The message being that everyone sort of takes life for granted, assuming that tomorrow will always come, when in reality, life can be short. So this panel, again, did really well on the internet, with netizens liking, retweeting, and leaving comments like, this is deep, heartbreaking, let's live every day to the fullest so we have no regrets. Now, it is also implied from the second day's manga that the crocodile is not aware of his impending doom, adding another layer of deep philosophical undertone. So just as designed, the crocodile crocodile continues his ordinary life while the time bomb ticks away day by day. Throughout these daily manga uploads, we're told that the crocodile works at the cafe, has a small group of friends, and likes to play video games. And just like the majority of the struggling youth, he's not sure what he really wants to do in life and is still just trying to figure it out. This apparently resonated with a lot of people who find the crocodile to be very relatable. In addition to being down to earth, the crocodile is also very likable, being portrayed as this kind, almost altruistic character who'd sacrifice himself for other people. So over time, readers have slowly grown emotionally attached to the crocodile. By the time the manga got to about day 40 to day 50, it had gained massive traction online, and each panel release would easily garner over 100k likes. People were not only getting emotionally invested, but they also started speculating about how the final end would play out. Because throughout the panels, hints of foreshadowing were dropped here and there. For example, a friend of the crocodile recovered from an injury and he said, "Thank God it's just an injury instead of something more fatal," which led readers to speculate that this could foreshadow the crocodile's ending being related to an injury. So comments kept feeding off each other, leading to more comments. At some point, it felt like everyone on Twitter was involved in the discussions and were collectively watching over the crocodile's fate. It even got to the point of gaining attention from huge online celebrities. For example, Hajime Shacho, one of the biggest YouTubers in Japan, jumped on the discussion train and he published a video titled, "I asked the author how the crocodile would die in the end" on March 10, 2020, 10 days before the crocodile's scheduled end. Another comedian who has over 7 million followers also tweeted about the manga, noting that the crocodile's scheduled ending would likely fall during the cherry blossom season. So what started off as this low-key side project by a struggling mangaka turned into a national online sensation in a matter of just 100 days. Finally, on March 20th, 2020, with the entire internet watching, the crocodile reached his final day. Unlike the previous 4-panel manga, the finale was a special 13-panel manga. Day 100. The crocodile had originally planned to go cherry blossom viewing with his friends, but while everyone else arrived, he never showed up. One friend decided to go pick him up, not knowing that the crocodile had already passed away. It turned out that while crossing the street, he saved a little chicken who happened to be jaywalking, but in doing so, he was caught in a car accident and sadly passed away. The final panel freezes on a street lined with blooming cherry blossoms, and just like that, the crocodile whom everyone had followed and loved for 100 days left the world. This ending tweet went insanely viral, receiving over 2 million likes and 700k retweets, breaking the record for the most retweeted post in Japan at the time. Netizens flooded the comment section expressing their grief over the crocodile. They were not ready to say goodbye. Now, this could easily have been remembered as the most successful Twitter/web manga campaign ever, had things proceeded naturally. However, what Kikuchi did in the next few hours completely turned everyone against him. In less than 1 hour after the crocodile's demise, Kikuchi announced that there will be a series of commercialization tie-ins. Not only was this Twitter manga getting a book release, it would also get an anime movie adaptation, a wave of merch sales, and even a theme song in collaboration with a famous band in Japan. Now, remember, it had not even been 1 hour after the crocodile passed away and netizens were still grieving. So people were getting quite upset by Kikuchi's commercialization announcement, arguing that they felt robbed of the emotional afterglow. Comments flooded in saying things like, "You've ruined the ending's impact." Yet that was not the worst part. The final nail in the coffin came when netizens did some digging and found something rather sinister about Kikuchi's account history. You see, at this point, people were starting to get suspicious about the whole project, because how could a small indie mangaka manage to pull off these many business deals in such a short time? Turns out, the management company behind Kikuchi's Twitter account had business ties to Japan's largest advertising agency, Dentsu, and Dentsu staff members were involved in producing the tie-in music video. Even more shocking, netizens also found out that before the Crocodile series even started, Kikuchi allegedly attended a 2-hour meeting at Dentsu. This led to widespread suspicion that the project wasn't a personal indie creation by Kikuchi, but rather a corporate campaign designed for profit from the very beginning. What made matters worse is that Dentsu, the marketing agency, is an infamous quote-unquote black company in Japan, notorious for treating its employees like slaves. Things were starting to look really bad for Kikuchi, so he came forward to clear the air. He claimed that he did not work with Dentsu and he wasn't planning to use the crocodile manga for profit initially. All monetization decisions were made only after the series unexpectedly went viral. However, netizens were not convinced by his explanation, and the controversy immediately spiraled out of control. In a short amount of time, Kikuchi lost 1 million followers on Twitter. The crocodile also became the target of memes and trolling. For example, some fellow mangakas drew parody panels titled Dentsu Crocodile, insinuating that Kikuchi had colluded with Dentsu from the start. And when the anime film aired in the theaters, netizens bombed it with low ratings. They even used the theater's seat booking system to troll and mock, and they were getting pretty creative, spelling out words like run away or collectively only booking corner seats. It got so bad to the point that the theater had to issue a public statement, threatening to call the police if netizens kept behaving this way. Now, at this point, a small group of netizens, myself included, think that perhaps the backlash has gone a bit too far. I mean, personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with mangakas wanting to make money out of their work. I also think that if the same thing happened in the West, it probably wouldn't cause a backlash of this scale or any backlash at all, because I feel like in the West, it's pretty common for artists or influencers to monetize their work as soon as it becomes viral, and the public is pretty cool with that, right? So this got me thinking, perhaps in Japan, people just have higher standards for online celebrities and are not as accepting towards things like monetization of a previously free service. Because remember, the Crocodile series had been free content on Twitter for the entire 100 days. So maybe people are pissed about this previously free content now suddenly having monetary motives. However, after doing some research, I realized that that's not the case. Japanese people are actually pretty understanding of mangakas wanting to make money and have reacted quite positively in the past towards works that got monetized. For example, One Punch Man. It also started as a free web manga, but when it got its anime adaptation, people were pretty supportive, which led to it becoming a global sensation later on. Another interesting example is Pulp Team Epic, which also started off as a free web manga, and when it got monetized, not only did it receive no backlash, but the monetization decision was almost celebrated because the manga itself was a parody of pop culture, so selling out was part of the joke. Another recent example is the Apothecary Diaries, which also started off free but went on to receive a major commercial adaptation. While it did receive mild criticism from longtime fans, it never developed into a full-blown controversy. Therefore, monetization itself was not the issue per se. So what was it that actually pissed people off? Browsing through netizens' angry tweets, I think I found the answer: betrayal. The timing of the commercialization was far too rushed. Not only did it completely dilute the emotional impact of the crocodile's ending, it made netizens feel as if the creators had been waiting for the crocodile to die so they could profit from it. On top of that, netizens were especially upset about the merch sales. To them, the tacky design of the merch went against the entire message of the series. After following the story, the crocodile had come to symbolize the uncertainties of life and death. So seeing it sold on stickers and purses at 7-Elevens as this cute, cheerful mascot felt completely out of place. It cheapened the crocodile's image and directly contradicted the theme and tone of the manga. So in short, netizens felt their emotions had been toyed with, and it was the sense of betrayal that ultimately triggered the outrage. And if there's one thing to be aware of when doing things in Japan, is that things like trust, consistency, and harmony are highly valued in this society, and you do not want to mess with people's trust systems. In fact, about 1 year ago, there was another major incident in the anime industry that proved just how disastrous a betrayal of trust can be. That incident, in my opinion, was 100 times worse than the Crocodile series, because at least with the Crocodile series, you could argue that the mistakes were largely unintentional and more the result of poor planning. Like, I don't think Kikuchi drew those panels with the deliberate intention of exploiting people's emotions, but the work I'm about to talk about was 100% maliciously intended, almost as if the creators just wanted to spit on its fans. And that work is none other than the notorious Kemono Friends Season 2, which according to Season 1 fans was so outrageous that it made their blood boil. Let's talk about it. Now, to give you an idea of how terribly rated the show was and how angry it made people feel, I want to show you some facts and numbers. So Nico, the website where many people go and watch live broadcast, has a rating system for its shows where 1 stands for very satisfied and 5 stands for not satisfied at all. So the percentage of 1 is therefore sometimes referred to as a show's approval approval rate. Now, normally speaking, shows that are considered bad will still have an approval rate of somewhere between 30 to 60%. For example, the 7 Deadly Sins theater anime is a pretty trashy show and it has an approval rate of 53.1%. Kiss Sis, another notorious anime well known for its degenerate plot, has an approval rate of 45.5%. Now, in comparison, do you know how much approval rate Kemono Friends Season 2 final episode got? 2.6% out of 100%, which broke the record for the lowest rated episode ever in Nico Nico's entire history. In addition, this reading was given live by a staggering 600k viewers, which broke the record for the number of live ratings ever given to a show. So it's not an exaggeration to say that almost the entire anime community decided to review bomb this show. So what went so wrong? Just like the Crocodile series, the previous season of Kemono Friends, aka Season 1, was extremely well loved by the audience. In fact, it was the #1 highest rated anime on Nico Nico in 2017, even surpassing masterpieces like Made in Abyss and Land of the Lustrous, which was nothing short of a miracle because, as you can see, the quality of the visuals is not great and it gives off the vibe of a kids show. Some of the CG animation is so bad that critics call it jarring and hard to watch. This low quality of production was mostly due to the show being given a really tight budget. When Season 1 first aired, many people mocked the low quality of the visuals, calling it ugly. However, as the story progressed, the audience was gradually won over by its solid character building and heartwarming storyline. You can tell that the creators poured their heart and soul into this and utilized every resource they possibly could. And the biggest credit goes to the director, Tatsuki. However, due to some business side maneuvers which I don't understand, Tatsuki was kicked out from the production team for Season 2, which already gave an ominous signal and made fans skeptical of the upcoming season. That being said, Season 2 ended up to be so terrible that it went beyond even the haters' imagination. To put it in a nutshell, Season 2 was a 180-degree betrayal of Season 1 and went against everything Season 1 ever stood for. Season 1 tells a very simple yet very heartwarming story of a bunch of animal characters exploring a certain park in a seemingly post-apocalyptic world. At the center are two main characters, Kaban and Serval. Kaban is a human who's not aware that she's human, and Serval is a Serval cat who becomes Kaban's first friend, and together they explore the park and meet more friends, aka more animal characters. The show made it quite clear that in this world building, humans and animals are equal. Although humans are sometimes portrayed as talented and skillful, the undertone is that humans are not superior or dominating in any way and are on equal grounds with animals. Hence the title Kemono Friends, Kemono standing for beast/animals in Japanese. However, in Season 2, the tone drastically shifted, with humans now being regarded as above animals. The interaction between humans and animals no longer felt like an equal exchange of friendship, but rather humans being the boss and animals being their mere servants. The new protagonist, Kyururu, is presented as this pretentious wooden character who takes extreme pride in the fact that she's a human instead of an animal, and the animals are all trying to suck up to humans in one way or another. Although this tone had already made fans uncomfortable in the first couple of episodes, things were still under control. And then came episode 9. This episode was when all hell broke loose. This episode was so bad that it almost became iconic in its own right. After it aired, it immediately became the second lowest rated episode in anime history. According to this Redditor, this episode goes beyond just being bad. This was a disgusting betrayal of everything the first show stood for. I don't know how you could make this episode and think it was a good idea. It's just beyond baffling. It's so bad and so insulting that it feels like the show is going out of its way to on you as a fan. So what happened in episode 9? So this episode, titled Go Home, tells the story of a domestic dog who once lived with humans but has been left behind after her owner's departure. So when she learns that the protagonist, Kyururu, is human, she's overjoyed and begs Kyururu to stay because she just loves humans and believes that it's her mission to protect humans. To show her undying loyalty, she goes all of her way to protect Kyururu from dangers, fighting off monsters and ending up severely injured. Just as she's about to collapse, Kyururu's original friends, Caracal and Serval, show up. Instead of showing some concern for domestic dog, they take a cold look at her and call her useless. Now, it's implied here that the reason they're so mean to Domestic Dog is that they feel jealous of her brewing friendship with Kyululu, which is just beyond outrageous. Look, friendship is not a zero-sum game. You can all be friends, which was the central theme of season 1. The show, instead of correcting this narrative, has the audacity to make Domestic Dog say, all while Kyululu just watches from the side with this nonchalant face, and she does not even invite Domestic Dog to tag along with them. And so, with tears in her eyes and injuries all over her body, Domestic Dog just goes home to her empty, lonely house, waiting for the next human who would probably never show up. I mean, what kind of plot is this? How did the producers think that this was not gonna get people mad? However, just when the audience was still immersed in anger from episode 9, episode 12, the final episode, proved to be even more infuriating. Upon seeing this episode, I am fully convinced that the producers made this show with the deliberate intention to disgust the fans. In this ending scene, Kaban, the protagonist from season 1, shows up besides Serval. Now, remember back in season 1, these two used to be best friends? So Kaban says this to Serval. You and your new partner, Kyululu, seem to make a good team now. I remember you and I also used to make a good team in the past, right? And to that, Serval responds with, what did you just say? Sorry, I'm gonna have to get back to Kyululu. Then she just runs off, leaving Kaban alone by the beach in tears. And then the theme song from season 1 starts to play in the background, a song themed around friendship. The irony of this scene is just egregious, and it left the audience in absolute rage. The episode received a 2.6 approval rate, becoming the lowest rated episode in the entirety of anime history. Just look at the sea of rolling comments in red when this scene aired, showing that Nico Nico users were angered beyond repair. Conclusion. The reason I made this video is that, as you've probably noticed, anime has gotten really big in the West over the past few years. With this surge in popularity came the inevitable decision to milk the hell out of existing franchises. For example, there have been a ton of spin-offs and reboots lately, allegedly fueled by how popular these shows have become in the West. Well, I personally don't like reboots. I think they're kind of inevitable because who doesn't want to make money? That being said, I hope producers will treat the two examples I talk about today as lessons and remember to never betray their original fans. The same fans who made a show popular also have the power to destroy it. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.